everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop and I'm going to make a marble today. Another Vortex marble with kind of some going back to the basics. Gonna build some elements to go into it, but the basic construction is going to be pretty simple. So let's get the torch running and start out by making a couple of different pieces that I want to use inside the marble, and I'm going to start out with a roll-up of palladium. I'll get my torch figured out here, and another roll-up of silver. So just going to get this rod warmed up and see if I can get this to roll. Kind of press that in a little, and I did this step before in a recent video. Haven't used palladium for a long time, and then kind of liked what was going on. I'm going to try make a few little adjustments to how I'm going to use this, but again we're going to come across covering both ends. Wanted to get this piece picked up. This is a very thin leaf that gets attracted by static electricity or a little bit of breeze or anything going on the torch bench. I have a habit of kind of blowing some of the shrapnel off my bench, and can't do that with a piece of this stuff laying there. And then when I went to do kind of a practice of how to make sure I had enough elbow room to get this roll-up done, it immediately was just attracted with static electricity to the glass rod. I was like, oh, this will be interesting. So I'm going to apply this in just some sections on the inside of the marble. So I only need about 3 inches of this material. So I'm going to pull this out, but try not to pull it out very far. I want it kind of thick and chunky. Okay, easy peasy. And I'm going to do kind of that same thing with silver, but it's going to behave quite differently. Okay, got a strip of silver here. Now this silver is quite a bit thicker from a material standpoint. So the nomenclature on this is somewhat vague, but I think this would be considered silver foil. Now, it looks kind of the same, but it's going to change here radically. Try and keep this under the flame considerably. Be a little too far out. Alright, let's see if this got covered all the way around. And the silver is going to kind of dissolve. It's going to lose all its metallic looking properties and turn into more of a chemical coloring operation. And it may retain some little beads of silver. So again, I just kind of want to pull this out similar to the other piece. Well, I think I included some air in that process. So we're going to have some bubbles in the final result. Just trying to keep from just burning into that foil directly, and I got a little bit too gun shy there. Okay, leave a little tail on there for a handle. Okay. Now, the center plunge, I'm going to use this kind of purple color, kind of goes more blue when it's heated. And this will be similar to what you do just to make a basic mushroom push, but I'll try not to go too far with the push. But first, I want to gold fume this. Make sure it's hot. And this little piece of gold is getting dangerously hidden in there. Let's see if it'll come out to play. Fuming something so little can be a bit of a trick. Probably because the glass will get a little too warm to receive the gold. So I keep pressing this on the L marble plate up on top to kind of try and keep that gold sticking out and not submarining. Okay, I think I've got some gold on there. Okay, so let's see if I can apply these in some kind of logical context. I'm just going to prep this one, both of these I guess, a little bit. Take off some excess clear here. It's still a little warm. Alright, now I think I can move on to getting my main clear rod going. So hope everybody's doing pretty good out there. We're getting in the midst of a heat wave. Yesterday was supposed to be about 100. It doesn't get quite that hot here, so we're up a little higher elevation, but just forecast is for hot weather as far as you can see. Not much clouds, not much any chance of any moisture. Definitely got into hot summertime. So I'm trying to slowly get acclimated. It's also dusty, dry, and allergy season still, and whatnot. Out here a little bit earlier than usual, trying to beat the heat. So the first step is to do this central push. But I know a lot of places across the country right now are in some pretty serious heat. And our yard, fortunately, has grown up. We've got a lot more sizable trees that are giving us some shade. So that certainly helps. It's always a little bit disconcerting when, as soon as we get hot like this, and we start filling the valley with smoke. And I think this smoke is probably coming from California fires or fires outside of our immediate area. But we've had a couple of small fires already in the valley, in our area. And that's always pretty frustrating if we get, right now it's not bad, but if we get smoke to the level that we don't feel we could keep the windows open to let fresh air in at night, that's a little disturbing for us. Used to our mountain fresh air up here. Okay, we're going to just kind of get a good sized ball going on the end here and keep this up and just try and do a push. Now getting that push to go right on center is definitely not easy. And this time I actually didn't want it on center, so I wasn't concerned about being off center. And hopefully we can see that process here coming up as to why I was okay with that off center. So this phase, trying to kind of chase out some of the air that's trapped around that push. There's always going to be a little bit of air trapped. So what I'm hoping to do here is get towards our cone shape. But also introduce some twist. And you can start to see that, hopefully you can see that, starting to get twisted around inside there. Yeah, you can really kind of see the evidence of that entering off point, off center. Kind of pull this out a little. So try and grab that point and just drag it out. More shaping and twisting. Now it's a little closer to coming out to the bottom of the well. Okay, so now I want this to be in a couple of sections. See if we can line this up a little. Sometimes helps to have your elements a little bit warmed up. I'm going to try and do 3 here, so I'll try out my alignment. Try to use as much of this as I can. That worked more or less. Then we're going to go in between those lines and add the silver. I'm trying to reheat things. Warm this up. Alright, well that's going to introduce some bubbles. Sometimes that's just the way it is. I don't freak out about bubbles like some people do. Bubbles are part of the expression of glass, part of the artistry. Now, we'll try and melt these all the way in so we have the flat face again. Being pretty stubborn. Oops. Thought that foot switch would turn down my torch, but it didn't happen. Alright, then we're going to add a little bit of another effect, just a bit. Blue-green. I think we'll come backwards here between these lines. Now, I'm going to get this whole thing hot. We're going to do a bit more of this twisting action. So this is kind of like what I'm talking about kind of going back to classic concepts. Most twisting things that I've worked on, this is kind of the process, getting it hot and then dragging it. And the other kind of key point to some of this type of work is to pull out your end, kind of clean up that termination. When I first saw people doing this, I thought, man, you're wasting like all this really cool part of the glass, but there's method to the madness. So instead of going just straight to a dark background, I'm going to use some pretty frit. That's blue spruce. So we're going to pick up, kind of try and get a bit of an even coat there, but that's all. I'm not going to go with a solid. And then as you heat this up, it kind of beads up and gives more of an open structure. So next, let's add a little bit of gold fume onto that background. Not sure that's really laying down the fume like I would like to see it, but that'll work. Okay, and we're going to cover up the back. Yeah, kind of a haphazard approach to putting down some backing color, and then I'll use a little pressure and squish it into the cracks. Basically, I didn't have a whole lot of this color pulled out, so I'm trying to spread it thin. Just come back and hit the spots that really need it. Okay. Not sure if there was silver on this one or if it's kind of buried or gone, burnt out. There's some silver. All right. Now, get going, putting on the backing material. So trying just kind of a technique or procedural wise, this is kind of a basic, one of the first Vortex marbles I learned. Making that center plunge, putting on straight lines of color, twisting it a little bit. So the trick here was adding some different metallic effects instead of just straight color. Using some fuming and frit in the background. But hopefully that initial application of the metallic paints, the silver and the palladium, give it a little bit of dimensionality inside. I sort of feel like any of these variances, even if they're somewhat subtle, that can change up the interior geometry. It's magnified a bit with the vortex effect and gives you some interest beyond just a flat interior. And having some kind of focal in the center is always kind of useful to direct your eye. Bonk. Yeah, for better or worse, we have a pretty significant yard with a lot of different things going on, and none of it's on automatic sprinklers, so on hot days I've spent a good deal of my time just moving sprinklers every hour or something. We sometimes refer to it as chasing brown spots because we have so many areas. It's really not a lawn like a traditional suburban lawn. It's basically just a mowed down section of the field, which in a lot of areas is pretty much more weeds than grass, and you water it, you mow it, it looks green. And we do have ditch water that is piped. It's just gravity feed pressure, so some sprinklers don't work too well with that. Part of the other reason that involves moving sprinklers quite a bit. So a good thing on private well and with irrigation water, we don't have any direct cost. Of course, there's always a cost to build and maintain a water system or build and maintain an irrigation ditch. But we are fortunate in that sense that we're not looking at running up the meter on a water bill, monthly water bill or something. We don't have to conserve water in that concept. But there's always these issues. Last time our well pump went out, it was I think on a Sunday or Saturday night. Sunday morning we're in at Ace Hardware. God bless them, but they had exactly the right replacement well pump for us, and $230 or I think it was, thereabouts, to put in a new pump. Get the neighbors to come help out a little bit. You got her done. But that's the other aspect. If you're going to have your own water system, you best know how to fix it and maintain it. Because anymore, getting a well guy to come out and work on something is going to be spendy. So I'm really hoping through some of this hot summer weather I can do these videos without having to resort to having an air conditioner running while I'm doing it. We've got just a window AC unit that I can use when it gets too crazy hot in here. But of course it's noisy, and then I would just add one more noise factor. I think it would really detract from the video, so I'm just going to try and hopefully have the shop cool down in the morning and just get these put together while it's reasonable. I see all kinds of posts, of course, online of how people deal with the heat, and I do have a little fan underneath the bench. A little bit of air blowing right on you is good. You don't want air blowing around up at the torch. That causes some issues trying to work with too much draft happening right around the flame. But it seems to be pretty helpful to have torch underneath, or fan underneath the torch bench. Right now I've got the window, well, the window that's generally open is on the west side, so that's still in the shade of the building. So the air coming in is not too bad. But these extended times where we get into hot weather and cools off at night, but it's getting less and less effective cooling off at night. And then, like I say, if we get very smoky, it kind of throws our game plan off of cooling down at night. Although, you know, the window AC units work a lot better at night. If the outside air is cooler, the AC will work a lot better. Okay, we're getting this backside rounded up, ready to do our color on the back end. It is getting a little sticky. Okay, we're gonna do a stacked color. This is Silver Strike 5, just a basic tan. And I'm going to come back on top of this with some greasy glass, a yellow. I've tried some of these greasy glass colors on the backing, and they tend to be really too pale, too transparent. But this yellow is kind of intriguing. It's well, some of the colors are, they don't get all freaky like the cadmium colors, so kind of easy to work with, but they just don't have the vibrant depth of color either. I'm going to add our line of sparkling blue in between. Get some good contrast. Now, when I'm stacking colors, I usually try and kind of heat in that base color. Let it flatten out a little. So I'll leave that first wrap up around the edge alone. Okay, heat in those colors until they smooth out. And knock the heat down and let it get solid here before we can go on to our raking step. That first bend is not very pretty. It opened up. And I'm hanging on to. We got pretty loosey-goosey. Oopsie, hang on. Okay, well that's a little crazy. Okay, a couple things. Push this together at the end. Okay, got all kinds of craziness going on here, but we'll get it under control. Can't always go easy peasy. Okay, this next step I'm going to have to work with the smaller flame and try and heal up that kind of mess. This one, I didn't really have a good starting buildup of the lens side of things. So then I need to try and go slow with this next step. So you want to avoid any creases and folds. A lot of this kind of funky wiggly glass right where the torch is aimed at is it needs to be cleaned up, and basically some of that should be waste glass, so it's kind of a process here of getting that to the outside edge where I can tear it off. Some of that glass is just a little bit traumatized here. So trying to feed the clear rod, kind of feed it into the center. It's pushing all that other glass out to the edges. Okay, I think we got a good amount of clear on the front. So hopefully some of those effects will kind of lead to some contrasting views in there. I got notice that our information packets are ready to be picked up down at the county fairgrounds. So our weekend at the fair is going to be coming up soon. It's not a weekend, it's kind of a week, Tuesday through Saturday. So we always really look forward to that, but I should be cranking up some inventory right now, and this hot weather's not really making me feel real productive, but kind of looking for a break in the weather, but it doesn't look like that's really an option, so. But as long as I'm not recording, at least we have the window AC. I can keep it tolerable in here. Okay. Well, we're doing pretty good. This is coming together. I didn't have quite the complex construction in this one. I just needed to kind of keep straight in my head some of the different pieces and parts I wanted to put together. So like a lot of these builds, I spend some time pulling out stringers for the back colors, prepping, make sure I've got enough clear rods, the different sizes rods, whatever I need. Make sure I've got some gold and silver fuming sticks prepared and some spares handy if I need to. So these always involve a bit of a mental process for me to go through and think about what I'm going to be doing. And then I, try and sort of lay things out here on the little rod rest and kind of go a progression of things I need to do first, things I need to do last. But I still, sometimes at the last minute I went back and looked at some notes and I had another thing I was going to add to this one, and I kept visualizing, thinking it's like, that's going to be too much, too many different things going on. It's going to be kind of a wasted effort, and that's something that comes up here and there where I get a little bit too many ideas going on. And when you stack all these different things one on top of the other, there tends to be something in the background that's completely lost. Can't see it in the final piece. And that's always a little disappointing, but it's also just like wasting your time. Literally wasting your time putting those added elements together. So it was kind of funny. I looked at my notes, I saw one of my ideas I had, and I thought, well, I don't think I'm going to do that on this one, so we'll save that for an effect in the next marble. And then maybe I'll make that kind of more like a focal, sort of a dominant feature, instead of being just a sideshow. Sometimes even after I'm sitting down at the bench and I'm just about ready to start working, I make revisions and think, maybe I should stop here a minute. Yeah, I'm curious about these backing colors. I think that yellow reacted with the Silver Strike 5. I don't know how it's going to look after it goes through the kiln, but may be a very interesting little move. Now the shape of this is looking really weird. I don't know. I don't know how to encourage this to get to a complete marble. This is just going to take a little patience. I always have to consider on these, anyway, you've got this internal geometry, and you don't really want to horse around a bunch with a marble mold or something, it's like, yeah, that will get the outside round, but you will have really messed up the inside. So I think this one will require a bit more cautious heating. I do kind of like this fast rotation thing to help shape things up. Also a ways off of concentric features here. See if I can maintain my out. I used to have to do quite a few punty switches from one end to the other to shape up the marble. And I've kind of gotten it down to a certain pattern, a minimum number of punty switches. See if I can maintain that concept here. That last step. Again, if you haven't seen this before, I kind of go into the marble mold and leave that very end from being worked too much. And kind of preserve that termination at the very far end. And then try and just get this to come together with heat. Okay, well, next step in the marble mold, I'm going to run it all the way across that end. So we start at the back side and then we rotate and get it to blend that back end together. And now we're getting to the point where kind of use a bit more brute force to shape up the outside. The inside's not going to move very much at this point. Whatever distortions happen, they've already happened. You can see now, looking down into it, the center corkscrew and a shimmering palladium effects on the outside. It's looking good. Now, as so many times happens, that last little bit around the circumference just has a real hard time stitching up and healing up together. Sometimes a little bit more firepower does the trick. Last time got it plenty hot, but then going into the marble mold it actually adds some wrinkles to it. So that circumference is basically all healed up. I just want to make sure we don't have other wrinkles going on. So I think we're pretty good on that backside, so we're going to let this skin here for a second and cool down the core. Back into that hot fire and flame polish the background, backside. And we come out of this flame and keep spinning, keep spinning, keep spinning. A moment to chill off a little. Yeah, I'm kind of liking this contrast between the silver effect and the palladium effect. I think I chose pretty well on this. So it's really interesting to see how some of these colors pop after the kiln cycle. I won't quite see the real deal until tomorrow. Alright, last punty. So that took a bit of horsing around to get the shape put together. At some point it might look like it's not a happening, but we got it to go. Now, that little piece that I just pulled out of there, I want to try and burn this in and make sure there isn't any more kind of foreign glass or boiled glass or anything like that. And then when you pull off like that, then you want to make sure you don't hit that place you just pulled out, superheat that, or you will change the glass or potentially boil it. And that's not what we're looking for at this point. Now, another little problem. This big old Red Max torch can throw some shrapnel. It tends to be little bits of carbon. Something I don't think about enough is stay away from the face when you first turn that on. Wait a second before going into the mold. Let that skin develop on the outside. Still did it again today. I got it kind of cranked up, and that's one reason it's doing that. I did just brush off the face before I started, but okay, so at some point the marble mold just is kind of frustrating, so we're just going to let this melt and form up on its own. Contour is basically there. Just want to make sure we clean up any little wrinkles off the very end, especially it looked like it had some funny business going on. We're just about there, guys. Oh yeah, the palladium did a really nice job of getting an open structure where you can really see that it has volume to it. Silver is a little less defined in that way, but I like it. But yeah, it was yellow on the back. I don't know what it turned into. It looks kind of blue. That'll be really interesting. I may have come up with a combination just on, well, not by accident, but by odd choice. Okay, I'm liking this. I tend to be my own worst critic. I mean, there's things that I pick apart and critique about, and a lot of times things that I've done I just feel like, compared to what I was wanting to see happen, it was kind of a failure. But alright, let's get this off the funky. Yeah, man, I'm ready to run through the sprinklers. Goodness gracious. So we got her done. Very good. Alright, thanks everybody for hanging out, watching any of these videos, picking up a few tidbits of information here and there, I hope. Maybe a little bit of silliness. Because after all, artists can't be too serious. It's going to be a little crazy. That was a sweet marble. Alright, get this in the kiln. And we are all set. So you guys, thanks so much for being here, and hope to see you next time. So take care of yourself, take care of all your friends and family. Be good, be kind. See you next time.